The girl jumped downstairs, suddenly floating on the ground. One man told her, "I'm sorry, you're not dead yet. Those who are destined to die are allowed to die. That's the rule." Turns out the man is a god of death. His mission is to take the souls of the dead. Then the girl's best friend, Fuzi, arrived in a hurry, but a black feather fell on her. Death was even more focused on her. Then Fuzi was on her way home. Death finds her. First he handed over a business card. Then he took out a notebook full of names and said, "Just now, your name is on the reservation list." Then he took out his pocket watch and said, "Counting today, you have 3 days to live. If you have any wish, do it quickly." And yet to hear that, Fuzi just walked away. Alright, how can a normal human believe such nonsense? See, the men will not forgive. Fuzi immediately went to the doctor for help. "I'm being pestered. It's the man in the black suit." But in the eyes of the doctor there was no one. The doctor said he didn't see anything. Fuzi was stunned. Then Death told her, his own appearance aside from the preordained dead and some of the people involved, no one can see him. And then to prove his identity, Death flew straight into the air. This moment, Fuzi had to believe it. "But I'm perfectly healthy. How could she have died suddenly? Is it because of the accident?" Death did not answer. Then he disappeared. That's it. The girl spent 3 days in a daze. But soon the deadline was up. Death reappeared in the girl's eyes. He took out his watch against time. With the crow flying by, the girl died in a real car accident soon after. Came to the hospital. The god of death took a last look at herself with the soul of the blessed son. Then they flew to heaven. The god of death took the scissors, cut off the last connection between the soul and the body. That's it. The task was successfully completed by Death. But that's when it happened. A woman pushed the door in. She is the embodiment of a crow, and a keeper of the gods of death. Only she signed Death's notebook. The mission is actually accomplished. However, when the god of death is ready to take out the notebook, only to find it lost, the human world at the same time, an insurance salesman found a notebook. Then he saw reporters covering the scene of Fuzi's death. He opened his notebook and looked. It looks exactly the same. The man found a notebook. It's a record of where and what people will die in the future. Then he heard the news from the passers-by. The painter Tanaka has just died in hospital. It's also in the notebook. At this point also automatically tick the box. The man found a notebook. It's a record of where and what people will die in the future. Then he heard the news from the passers-by. The painter Tanaka has just died in hospital. It's also in the notebook. At this point also automatically tick the box. The man is scared silly, hurriedly threw it in the trash, but curiosity got him back. It turns out this is a notebook of death. The names of the intended victims will appear on it. The loss of the notebook made Death anxious. The Raven Bringer was even more of a reminder. This could be the biggest threat to the formation of the universe since Day 2. Men can't sell insurance and are late. The leader was angry and gave them a good lesson in front of everybody. No matter what it takes. If you don't sell insurance, just waiting to get fired. Then the man suddenly thought of something. To the roof, he took out his notebook, scrolled through the names of people who were dying. So he made a bold decision. Then he came to a construction site. The boss saw that he sold the insurance. A decisive refusal. But the man went after him and said, "Have you ever had symptoms of dizziness and numbness in your hands and feet? A lot of people have died suddenly recently because of overwork." To hear that, the boss stopped at once. The man continued, "Be sure to take out insurance if you have such symptoms. I can't bear to see your living relatives on the streets." That's it. Men rely on the information in their notebooks. Made 3 big signings. The leader immediately took him by surprise. That night, the man went through the list again. And then the next day when he called, only to find out that a man is the father of a friend. Because men are already terminally ill, there is no insurance at all. But looking at the wall full of debt collection notes, he decided to give them a hand. But just as he was about to leave, he happened to meet the man of death who had come to tell the news of the intended death and say hello to him. And then the death suddenly came back. "How could I be seen?" He quickly pulled the man aside, but he thinks men are also agents in charge of a mission to the heavens. The pair also exchanged business cards. This makes a man look bewildered. But when he's gone, the Raven Bringer told the god of death, "The crows she scattered last night found. Men come into frequent contact with the intended dead, and he can see you, that the notebook must be in his hand." Now, the other side, the man returns to the company. He took out a friend's father's insurance policy for the leader to sign. However, the leader suddenly gave him a scolding. It's the original 3 clients, as if it had been agreed. All of them were dead. The company lost 30 million as a result. Then the leader also taunted, loafing around every day. It's a shame. The man was very angry when he heard this, so he took out his notebook. He wrote a line on it. Men are brutally humiliated by their leaders. He pulled out a notebook that could book someone's death, wrote something in anger, and yet this day, a man who claimed death found him and asked him to return the lost god of death note. Men don't believe in ghosts at first, but in a blink of an eye, death came behind him. The man suddenly scared silly. right after Death takes the notebook back, in front of a man and fly into the sky, and yet back to the heavens. The crow messenger looked through his notebook and was startled. It's written in the notebook, "Tomorrow morning, Mr. Kirakawa is dead." The woman exclaimed that it was not good. Even things written by humans, the power of note-taking will also be realized. But Death said with a calm face, "Just cross it off." But women say, only the person who wrote the name can cross it off. This is the death of a panic. The world at this time. The leader suddenly fainted. What suddenly came to the man's mind? But the ambulance was contacted urgently, and that's when Death appeared behind him with his notebook in hand. He thought telling a man to cross out the name would avoid tragedy, but the man who learned the truth laughed wildly. In desperation, Death finds the minister, told the truth that he was dying. The minister was scared to death. He begged Death to help him. Then Death finds the man to hang on to, chatting. The two also became friends, but Death does not forget its purpose. He told the man, the number of souls sent to the heavens is regulated. The unscheduled dead appear. You have to choose a life. However, the procedure during this period is very complicated. Then he added, Secretary Kirakawa got you into the company only by asking for help, in order to help you clean up the aftermath, but also many times to bow their heads. That's it. Death is constantly reconciling the misunderstanding between the two. A man lies in bed for a long time at night. In the hospital that morning, the minister suddenly fell critically ill, slowly losing the signs of life. And yet this is the moment. The man took the notebook in the hand of Death, cross out the minister's name. At the same time the other side, the minister's heart has returned. This is